what if Google just changed everything overnight and my site just disappears?
Hey everybody, so today we have Ash Reed. This is how you pronounce your name, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. Ash, huge fan of your work on Buffer side, and for people who don't know you, who's Ash other than the content marketing head at Buffer and somebody who's in content marketing in general?
So good question. I outside of work, just enjoy playing sports. Like that's probably my main thing. When I'm not working, I'm normally playing football or playing basketball or watching either of those two on TV. So yeah, that's my main thing outside of work. Just like I like to think all the time I spend in front of my computer working is so that I can get away from my computer and enjoy life outside.
Okay. Which is a good segue to my next question. That is, so I saw like you have two basketball frames behind your wall on your wall, and I was like, what are the mental models and frameworks that you have taken from the basketball game that you apply in marketing?
Yeah, I think like a lot of lessons from like sport and basketball like really apply to marketing. And I think like one is definitely like it's a team sport. Even if you're an individual, like if you're, running a solo business, like there's still a lot of other people that you need to make that success, whether it's customers, suppliers, freelancers, people that build the software you use. Like even if you're a solo entrepreneur, like there's a lot, you need a team behind you. I think also like you need, like coaches, mentors to give you advice, people that have been there before to help you out. And I think, like you definitely have times where it's not all going great, like where you're questioning what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing things. And I think, oftentimes just having people around you to remind you why you're doing it, how to do it properly, like that really helps, which is, something you get a lot in basketball is like encouragement from teammates, mentoring from coaches. Those are kind of essential to business, in my opinion.
Got it. Yeah, well, it's a good mental model, I have to say, from the game. Usually I take a lot of inspiration from games already, like, so I follow cricket, and like in cricket, there are guys who are like A players, right? And they come and they are stars. But I actually like to support guys who are like average players and they become great while playing the game over the period of time. And so I adapt those folks' mental models and how do they think about it. I'm about to release a thread on Twitter about it. Cool. So let's hop into the main topic today, which is like, just for the people to understand. So we've been talking on Twitter, and like I started my affiliate business now, and you have started like 2.5 years ago so far. And so what I wanted to know, like you must have had pretty good salary, which is probably public somehow because Buffer's data is public. Why would you go and start an affiliate business other than the story that is like, which you will get into, but like, why would you do that? Something like that.
I think I'll start by saying like, I didn't like set out to start an affiliate business. I just kind of set out to start a publication or like a site in a niche that I had some interest in, and also in a niche where I think like curation is needed. So like LivingCozy exists to like help people make better decisions about the brands and products they share home with. And over the last like 5 years or so, there's been hundreds of direct consumer homeware brands launch. And I kind of started it because I moved home in December 2019, and I wanted to find like cool, interesting brands to buy from. But I actually couldn't find them. Like it was really hard. When you search Google, often you just kind of get a Wayfair landing page or Amazon or something like that. So I knew these brands were out there. I couldn't really find them. So I knew discovery was an issue, both for the consumer in like finding these new brands, but also for the brands in their own discoverability and reaching consumers. So it kind of felt like, an opportunity to just create a publication, like a brand directory to help connect consumers with brands in that space. But I think like also yeah, as you say, like, at the time I was working at Buffer, good salary. Like, I didn't really need to do it for the money. I think a lot of it for me was like proving to myself that I can do it from scratch again. Like, it had been years since I'd built anything from zero. Like, even at Buffer, like every new project you start, you have an existing audience to market it to. A lot of it was, just a reminder to myself, like, you can do this. And kind of like a test, like, am I successful because of Buffer, or am I successful because I'm good at what I do? So yeah, those are kind of the reasons that I started it.
Yeah. So one question that I immediately start thinking about is that instead of starting from scratch, I know you want to test yourself, but if you have to go back, let's say there was a LivingCozy domain which had already an authority of, let's say, 25 or 20. Would you actually go and buy that domain, or would you start from scratch?
I mean, it would depend on like a lot of factors, like probably how much that domain would cost me, like whether the links are good, like what the content's like. But honestly, like I would probably just start from scratch with a domain, a brand name that I liked. Like growing domain authority, like it does take time. It's not easy, but it's also not impossible. So, like if you're like, I use Ahrefs to measure my like domain authority and do all of my SEO like research and stuff. And yeah, I launched LivingCozy. So I actually launched it in like April, May 2019. No, 2020, sorry, like last year. So yeah, April, May 2020. I launched it on a domain called homesupply.co first, then bought the LivingCozy domain, and it didn't have like any authority. And it's gone from like 0 up to like 42 now. So yeah, I think like any minimal gains you get at the start from like buying an existing domain, you can catch up pretty quickly. Unless you are acquiring a domain that's got like thousands of authoritative backlinks, then it's a completely different story.
Cool. So what's the story behind, like, so when you started, like, just take us through the entire journey so far, like, how did you do it? What did you do it? And like, I have a lot of questions for you, but I just want to tell the story first.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, feel free to jump in and ask questions at any point. But as I mentioned, like I moved house December 2019, was searching for brands to kind of buy furniture from, buy like everything to fill the house from. And launched the site as literally like a directory. So the first version I built it still is in Webflow, but I got a Webflow template, created like a directory of about 50 brands that I knew of, and just shared that on Twitter, which is kind of like my go-to for launching any project. Just like share it on Twitter, see what anyone says. And it actually got like a good reaction. Like it didn't go viral, but maybe like 5 or 6 retweets, like 30 or 40 likes, something like that. A few people messaging me saying like, this looks cool, this looks helpful, thank you. So that was kind of like the encouraging sign that I needed to continue on it. And initially when it came to like marketing, it was, where can I share this link to get a couple of clicks? So, I shared it on a few Reddit pages and kept sharing on social. Tried like running a few ads from like Facebook, Reddit, Pinterest, Quora as well. Just like trying every ad platform I could with like tiny, like, I don't know, $5 a day budgets to drive a few clicks. And then I was kind of like, I'm a content person. Like I should just lean into that to grow it. It's something that like over my career, like I've not done enough on personal projects. Like I've launched a bunch of like startup ideas and project sites, and most of them involve building software, having an engineer, and not just focusing on doing the things that I'm good at, which is content. So with LivingCozy, I just decided to lean into that and kind of focus on my speciality and create content to drive traffic from search. So initially when you're starting out from zero, it's just about finding like the lowest hanging fruit keywords that you could, or that I could. And I kind of just began researching like what are competitor sites ranking for, what are other like homeware brands or homeware sites ranking for, and like going into like Hrefs and just looking for like the low value, like the easier keywords to rank for that competitors rank for. And my kind of thought there was like, you know, a site like maybe Apartment Therapy or the Spruce.com, like they're not going to miss like 100 clicks a month. Like that's going to make zero difference to their business. But to a new business, like 100 clicks a month for a certain keyword is huge for me. So if I put in the work to create the best resource for that keyword, then I should be able to rank for that. And that was kind of my approach, like starting out with keywords that had a difficulty of like maybe 0 to 7 or 8. And then just kind of like working my way up, gradually tackling like bigger and bigger keywords. And then along with that, like there's also, like you say, a brand new site, like low domain authority. In order to rank, I need links. And like link building is really hard. It never gets easy. And I like the best way I found to actually get my first links was to interview founders of brands. So like the founders of the brands we featured on the site, I would reach out to the companies, or I'd actually like created a database in Notion first that had like all of the companies on the site. And then a second column that just said, does this brand have a press page? And if it did, I would reach out to them and say, you know, I'd like to interview your founder, you know, introduce them to LivingCozy, what it is, what we want to talk about, say we want to interview the founder. And once we published the interview, I would then send them a link and say, would you mind putting this on your press page? And that was like a really good way to get like 20 links from fairly high authority, but like super niche relevant sites, which was really, really important. And that was like, you know, a key thing for me to like go from like 0 to 20 in domain authority and to be able to kind of rank for certain keywords. And yeah, from there, it was just kind of, you know, like I think like the content marketing playbook, like the SEO playbook, like it's fairly straightforward, right? Like it's not, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. I think where people go wrong is like expecting overnight results or not actually putting in the work to make it happen in the first place, like writing 1 or 2 pieces and expecting them to rank. So like the vast majority of last year was just focusing on putting out high quality, like useful content for that niche, and just knowing that in the long run, like it will pay off if you do the right things. Like Google normally will reward you. So yeah, that's probably like a short-ish overview of like, yeah, launching the site and growing the first bits of traffic. But yeah, I don't know if there's any way you'd like me to dig in some more.
So I will include that the interesting bits of the Webflow interview that we can pick it and put it in this. So we don't have to dive into those details, and I'll pick it up. But like I have like follow-up questions, and the number one follow-up question is that I actually work with a D2C brand for content marketing side. Apparently, I also got them a lot of traffic, and through those keywords, which were low-hanging fruits. But it didn't move the needle that much. And so we don't have to talk about that, but what I want to talk about is that when I did the D2C brands product category keyword, there's a huge competition. So there's first ads, right? Then after the ads, that are like some keywords which are like some Google Shopping competes with you, right?
Yeah.
And from Google Shopping, then they're like men's health kind of a brand that compete with you. And I'm pretty sure like in furniture market, you also see the similar competition, right? So what I learned from listening to a couple of interviews of yours was that, you know, like you were trying to write the best content on that piece with a different angle. And so I try to mirror that content a lot for my own thing as well. And found interviews really made a difference. But when you were writing those blog posts, right, what I want to know is like, how did you try to compete with those people really, like, other than like giving good quality content which is unique and which is like has the unique insight from the founder, or and so and you also said like people read for the skimming is can not read, right? So even if you put so much good content in that blog post, people still are not going to read it. So it's very hard for me to do that. So I just want to understand, how did you actually thought about it?
Yeah, so I think, like there is a lot of competition on Google. Like you say, it's like Google Shopping, ads, like there's, in a lot of results pages, there's probably 5-6 things before you even get to the top result. But there's also a lot of traffic like hanging around in like the, I don't know, 5th, 6th positions in some cases. So oftentimes it's not always about like being number one, but like being in the mix and being around there. But I think sometimes you can look at search results pages and you'll see, you mentioned like a Men's Health. For me, it's quite often, one of the big homeware sites. And often the content is ranking because of domain authority, like not always necessarily like the strength of that individual piece of content. And I think that's where smaller sites can win. Because like, one of the kind of terms that I've used to describe it is like throwaway content. And essentially like that's kind of referring to like high domain authority pages or pages on high authority domains that are just kind of put out there, probably not with the goal of ranking for that keyword, but just happen to rank for that keyword. So, for me, it's often like, I know, roundups of like the best 10 green velvet sofas, right? Like that's probably just been something that an editor's had to, like the SEO person at that business has probably said, we need to write this keyword or this article. An editor's probably just like wrote it, they've put it out there. Then they've just like let it sit there for like 2 years doing nothing. And I think like, for me as a smaller site, like I can create a better piece of content than that, because like that's worth so much more. Like that ranking is worth so much more to me than it is to the big business. And the way I kind of go about it is just like looking at what's ranking and dissecting it. Like what have they done really well? But also what can you improve on? And oftentimes like the things you can improve on are things like bringing in outside experts to comment. So I'll always, like everything I publish, I try and have comments from like 2 or 3 interior designers on, because they know what they're doing. Like I'm not an interior designer. Like my name's attached to a lot of the content, but like no one cares what I think about interior design. And you kind of have to know that, right? Like it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is having experts in the content that really know what they're talking about. So that's something that I'll try and do. I'll also reach out to the brands that we feature and get like quotes from them. It's like one thing that Google looks for in like reviews, and I think it was an update like maybe February 2020, there was like a reviews update, and what they said there was like, we're looking for content that adds something that you can't get on the brand website. And what you see with a lot of sites is they'll just rewrite what's on a brand landing page in their content. And for me, it's like, I don't want to do that. We need to add more. So I'll reach out to the brands. I'll get quotes about like, what makes this sofa special? Why do you like this dining chair? What do your customers love about this bed? And try and give them stuff that they can't get anywhere else in the SERPs. And like, I think that's a big differentiator. Like that's what makes smaller sites stand out, is that they can go into extra detail and make the best content. And like, even if people just scan it, like you've got the content there for anyone that wants to go in depth. Like most people will just like open up a web page, scan through, probably click on like the sofa they like the look of. And, that's how it works. But you need to have all of the detail there to get where, to get like in the first page of Google. And, especially if you're trying to get in like the top 2 or 3 spots.
Got it. So that brings me to the next question, which is that like the article that you're writing, like 10 best dash sofas, right? And writing that content is actually really boring.
Mm.
Right? It's not like, oh, I'm changing people's mind about a topic and it's a thought leadership article. I do the research, talk to 10 people. Like, it's so interesting to just dive deep into one topic and write a really good blog article. But when you do like 10 best sofas, like, sure, like it doesn't add a lot of value to my knowledge. Sure, I'm going to write about it. So I personally really get bored on writing these software articles specifically. But I want to know, like from you, how did you cover that?
Yeah, it's I think like from a consumption perspective, like it's really dull until you need a sofa. Then it's like the most interesting thing. Same for you with software. Like, it's probably quite boring to write and boring to consume unless you're in the market for some SEO software or something. Then it's like really, really valuable content. And I think like in terms of writing it, like it does get repetitive. It does get boring. Like, so does any niche, right? Like, I wrote about social media marketing at Buffer for 6 years, and it's very difficult to, find that exciting after the 6th year. But I think the thing I try and do with like LivingCozy is like focus a lot on the brief. So, I'll put together like 500, 1,000 word content briefs, whether I'm writing the piece or whether I'm giving that brief to a freelancer. Like, I'll go through the same process, and that actually makes writing a lot easier. So the thing I'll do is like, initially it's like the SEO research. So what keywords do I want to rank for? What additional keywords do I need to mention in this piece? Then looking at the competitors, like what content do they cover? What do I need to talk about? And once you do that, like first part of like SEO research, you have the bare bones of an article. Like, you have the headings, you have some bullet points of what you want to talk about. And then from there, I'll go out and I'll get the quotes from experts. So I use Helper Reporter to do that. I'll send out a Helper Reporter request for every article that I write or every article that we publish. And I'll also like now, I've been doing it like a year. So I have contacts that I can reach out to in the interior design space for comment. So I'll do that. And then once you get those quotes back, say, let's talk about like, and I'm doing a piece on like sectional sofas. And my first H2 is, what is a sectional sofa? Once I've got the expert quotes, I can probably put like 2 or 3 paragraphs of quotes under that heading. And then when it comes to like the 10 recommendations, I can list the name of the sofa. I can have the expert quote, like from an interior designer or a quote from the brand, someone at the brand there. And suddenly like your job goes from staring at a blank page and having to write 2,000 words about sectional sofas to having 1,000 words in front of you that you now just have to stitch together and write an additional like 500 words for. So that's kind of the way I go about it. And I think as well, like for enjoyment, like if you're working on a side project or anything you work on, right, like it should kind of be a bit of fun. If I'm working on content I don't enjoy for a week or two, I make sure there's always something I look forward to. So like, I really like writing up interviews. I enjoy speaking to founders and writing up their stories. So I'll just make sure I have something like that to look forward to while I'm working through the purely SEO focused pieces. And that kind of keeps me going. And I think also, it's like the process doesn't have to be fun, but like you can enjoy the rewards. So I enjoy seeing them rank. I enjoy looking at how much traffic the site gets. I enjoy looking at sales generated. So the process might not always be fun every single time, but you kind of make it easy on yourself and then find enjoyment elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the next thing that I'm thinking is that which you already touched on, was layering up the content. And that's something that I learned from John Bonini's podcast. Shout out to John Bonini, where you talked about you were layering. You just wrote one article initially and you just published it and then layered on top more content. Other than the quotes, what else were you layering up to make it heavy lifted? And I know that, so you use like ClearScope to find out like, okay, what else I do server SEO, but like what I'm trying to understand is like, what other than quotes, like what else can you layer up on that?
Yeah, so I think like there's maybe like a couple of like misconceptions in like search, and like one is it has to be perfect when you hit publish, and yeah, two is like it just has to include absolutely everything on the first attempt, right? Because like Google, like refreshing content isn't a new thing. Like it works, and people have been refreshing content for years. And I think like a page is better. Like once it reaches a point where it's a good article, it's better to be published on the web than sat in your Google Drive doing nothing for you. And it's much easier for a page to go from like ranking 50th to 20th to 5th than it is to just launch and go straight into the 5th position. So I like to just get it out there early. And it also, like, I think so much of success in like online marketing, and especially in like side projects in your own business, is momentum, right? And it just feels good to hit publish on something. So it's good to just publish it and then say, I'm going to revisit that in 2 months. I'm going to make it better. And yeah, like you mentioned the quotes, like that's a big thing you can layer up, like the quotes from interior designers, founders. Images is a big one. So like when I first started, I would use like images from brand pages, and quite often they're just like a photo of a sofa, a photo of a table. But the stuff that converts a lot better is like lifestyle images. So like people enjoying a meal on the table, a family having fun on the sofa. So as I got to know brands, I'd get more of those images, improve those. There's also like whole new sections you can add. So yeah, like the sectional sofas piece, like I don't think when I first hit publish on that, I don't think I had a section that was like, what is a sectional sofa? So I added that in. And then at the bottom of that page now, there's also like FAQs about sectionals, like how does a sectional go together? Like all of that I didn't have in the initial thing. So like you can just always find like added details to add. And yeah, I think the thing I really like about layering up is like it gets that momentum, right? You feel good when you first hit publish. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, when you go back to it, maybe you just add another paragraph or two, hit publish again. Like that feels really good. And if you don't take that approach, like that article could just be sat in a draft for like 2 months going nowhere. And, instead of having just like one win when you publish it, you feel like you're building momentum and having like 10 wins on the way to getting that article finished. So yeah, it's also just like way, way easier to write 1,000 words and then add another couple of hundred every few weeks or months than it is to sit and write like 3,500 words in one go. So for some SERPs where you need to have a lot of detail, I think it's just good to ship something and iterate and improve over time. Because yeah, like it's just easier that way, in my opinion.
Okay, makes sense. So now the next question is the most interesting one for you, because that's something that I wanted to get out of you. Imagine that I am an affiliate of Buffer. Okay. Buffer already has an ad on Hootsuite Alternative. Okay. And I'm writing an article on Hootsuite Alternatives. You already have a landing page or article on Hootsuite Alternative as well. And I am writing an article and I have used Buffer. I have all the knowledge, experience in it, because usually when I write on software articles, I have used the article. I've used the software and I know what is unique part about it, what is the positioning, how it's different than other. So those basics are covered. And then I still don't know your software better than you, right? Like I still know like from the outside perspective. So how would I be able to rank in the mix of their search ranking to be able to rank? Because so just give you an example. So I'm a Riverside affiliate and I love Riverside. We're using right now.
Yeah.
So it's one of the keyword I rank in is like Riverside FM reviews, right? And this is like G2 is ranking on it. Riverside itself is ranking on it. I'm ranking on it. I think that piece was really well done because I have such a good experience on using Riverside. And I'm like, I want to talk about this tool. This is great. So I used 4 tools before Riverside, and Riverside was a winner. And so I wrote a review about it, but like G2 still has like 50 plus reviews on it. They are also putting UGC on it all the time, right? So what I'm trying to understand is like, if I have to beat the game, your game let's say not beating. If I want to be at least competitive in the game where you are playing already, where you're putting backlinks, where you have more context and understanding, where you have UGC running for you, how do I approach this kind of a keyword that can actually rank on an affiliate, as an affiliate?
Yeah, so I think in some cases, like, you're probably just not going to beat certain brands into the first or second spot. Like G2 is probably, like, they're a monster. Like, you're probably not going to outrank them. But also, I think, like, the thing with, like, search engine results pages is, like, people want something unique, right? Like, they don't always want to know, like, what the crowd on G2 are saying, or why Buffer says you should use Buffer over Hootsuite. Like, what they want to know is why an individual should use it, because, like, people buy from people and people like recommendations from people. So I think, like, your perspective is something that you should lean into on those types of pieces. Like, one of the things that one of, like, the first editors I worked with, a guy called Jory McKay, who was working at Crew. So Crew that kind of, like, turned into Unsplash. He was there, and, like, one of the things he said in an article was, like, everything's already been said, it just hasn't been said by you. And I think, like, that's the thing that's, like, really important, is to have that unique perspective. And yeah, like, you want to say all of the key phrases, include all of the words that, like, ClearScope, Surfer, whatever says you need to include to rank. Like, that's kind of like the table stakes, right? That's what you need to have in there. But on top of that, and, like, more importantly, you need to have an opinion. You need to have, like, a perspective on why Buffer is better than Hootsuite, or why Hootsuite is better than Buffer. So I think, like, just leaning into that, right? Like, doing all of the technical SEO stuff, doing all of the, like, ticking the boxes of how to write a good SEO article. And then on top of that, just putting in something unique that, like, no one else can have. And, there's a lot, you can include your opinion on it. Like, maybe if you wanted to take it to the next level, you could also go and speak to, like, 5 other users of, like, Riverside or Buffer or Hootsuite and say, like, why did you switch? Or, like, if it's Hootsuite versus Buffer, like, maybe you find 5 people that switch from Hootsuite to Buffer and you say, why did you switch? And then that kind of backs up your opinion as well. So it's kind of just like giving Google and the readers, like, as many data points about why they should care about what you think that as you can, would be my approach.
That's a really good answer, actually, because I didn't think of this way. Although you already said it in some way or the other. But when you just describe it, it makes it much more sense, right? So the last thing from my side is that, like, the world is moving towards Web 3.0, okay? And Google searches will be like, and Google has recently changed their page number from 1 to 2, like, you can just scroll as much as you want. And
yeah,
I have this huge objection in my head. So, in Web 3.0, my affiliate website will not be ranking because Google and other Web 3.0 projects will actually, like, will have a new way to help people recommend and discover. And this is like a big question mark. Should I be investing for the next 2-3 years on this project, right? So how do you think about it? Because this is something that I don't think, like, you knew about it, but I just want to know, like, what do you think?
So yeah, it's a really good question. Like, it's something that I think about a lot as well. It's just like, what if, like, a big worry, like, something that sometimes keeps me up at night is, what if Google just changed everything overnight and my site just disappears, right? But, like, search is, I mean, like, I would need to double check this, but, like, I think search and ads, like, that's basically Google's revenue, right? Like, most of their revenue comes from that. Why are they going to change it, right? Like, they can't just switch it off overnight. Like, it will evolve, it will change, like, search will adapt, but, like, I just don't think it will disappear. Like, and the way I think about it is, like, I'm a very small fish in this big pond of, like, businesses that rely on Google. If they make changes, like, it impacts the bigger companies a lot more than it does me. Like, I'm nimble, I can adapt. Like, NerdWallet just went public, basically based on SEO content, right? Like, Google is going to mess with them a lot more than they're going to mess with me. So, like, I kind of feel good about that. And I just think, like, Google can't afford to say goodbye to all that revenue. And also, like, search, it's pretty old school, right? Like you could probably say it's been here from like Web 1. Like people probably said Facebook, Twitter would kill Google, and they haven't. Like people will say Web 3 will kill Google, and it won't. Like it's going to be here. Like it might change, it might adapt, but it's going to be here. And I think like, yeah, we'll need to change, but like it's not going to change drastically overnight. And I think like, yeah, as it does, like you'll have to evolve, but I just don't see like Web 3 in the next like 3 to 5 years really changing that much about how Google search works. Because as well, like for every person that's like Gen Z, millennial that is maybe into Web 3, like there's probably twice as many that don't even know what an NFT is, don't know what Coinbase is, don't care about Bitcoin. And they have a lot of money to spend as well. So they're always going to stick around. So yeah, like I think it's really important to like be aware of all this stuff, like be thinking about how Web3 impacts your business. And like it probably will change a lot of industries. But yeah, I just don't see anything with Google and search like changing drastically right away.
Yeah. So since this is an affiliate marketing story, I don't know if you're open to it. I'm sure if it's inappropriate to ask, you can always not answer that. Is that like, are you comfortable? So I know that you have 100,000 page views per month. So that's everybody knows. Are you like sharing some rough ballpark range numbers, or how much revenue did you make from this business so far? And how much cost did it incur to you in the first and second year as well? Just for people who are thinking about, hey, I wanna have this side income, and I just wanna know, like, okay, is this a good way to still invest, or should I find something else?
Yeah, so I think like I haven't actually shared like the revenue numbers, but what I would say is like I didn't really invest much in it beyond time in like year one. In this like maybe towards the end of year one, like the start around where I'm at now, like I have a couple of freelance writers I work with. I have a digital PR agency that help with link building. And that's kind of like most of the expense. But yeah, I would say like it's paying its way, like it's profitable, largely because like furniture has a high average order value. So like the whole reason I focused on sofas to begin with is like that everyone has one and they're high average order value. And like that's really important as you pick a niche. Like if you're focusing on affiliate, like I didn't like this wasn't some like super smart plan of me to like go through all the possible niches and find high average order value products and build a site to reach that audience. Like it just so happened that the audience I focused on has high average order value. And that seemed like a good way for me to grow initially, because it's like I can sell one sofa and make anything from like 20 up to like $300, $400 with some partners. But, at the same time, like I work with cookware brands and I'll make like $2 or $3 a sale. So I think like, yeah, as you think about an affiliate business, like average order value has to be top. So like I want to cover cookware, kitchenware, become a like real dominant player in that space as well. But I'll do that once I've got further with sofas and furniture, because that's where the money lies for me. So I think like that's really important. And I think as well, like, affiliates are a great way to monetize publications, but it's also not like the only way. So you can still work with advertising. You can try and build subscriptions. And I think like that's a really good way to like future-proof sites as well, is just to like have multiple revenue streams. So like, right now I have a small amount coming from advertising. So I have like a brand I work with on site sponsorship, and they get a mention on every single page. And, I could maybe add in like AdWords or another channel there to increase ad revenue. Yeah. But affiliates is number one. And like, yeah, I think like ideally you don't rely on like one channel too much.
I just shared a Twitter thread with you by somebody you should definitely look into. It's like another way of monetizing it. It's really useful. So I'm going to consider when my website goes. I also have one more question. So I always wanted something like something which is not attached to my personal brand. But I ended up like choosing my personal brand as an affiliate website because I felt like I could have like, first of all, I tried the software. Like I always say, I tried the software. So it's like, oh, it's personal brand. Somebody's talking about their experience. And the second thing was like, oh, if I have more traffic, more people know about me, why not just do it? How do you think in the framework of instead of having the affiliate on the personal brand or like some non-personal brand? Because I just went the easiest way. My domain authority was anyway high. I was giving anyway interviews. So DA was anyway up. So okay, I don't have to struggle from the start. But how do you think about it?
Yeah, so I think like having a personal brand that you can like monetize is really, really cool. If it's like for you, right? Like I don't think everyone kind of needs to have everything be like personal, because I think like that can tie you into a niche. Like if everything was focused on my personal brand, like I probably wouldn't have launched a furniture business, like knowing nothing about that industry. I think it can be a great leg up. Like it can really help you go from 0 to 1 faster. Like if you're, known for digital marketing, you have an audience, you have an email list, like you can probably start a digital marketing site a lot faster and hit success quicker. But I think it's also like, in a way, it's quite nice to not have everything tied to your personal brand if you're thinking about things like selling the business on eventually. Like that's a lot easier when your personality isn't attached to it. Also, like if you don't want to be the front man to something forever, like or the front person, like it's good to not have your like personal brand all over it. But I think like there's a good like both have pros and cons, both can work. I think like also if you can build something successful outside of your personal brand, like that's probably a bigger boost to your personal brand, right? Like that's it's a good way to avoid being someone like that essentially sells courses about building online businesses when the only online business they've ever built is the course one, right? Like it's kind of you're proving you can do it before you kind of sell like the personal
like Naval
brand.
says, you want to be rich and anonymous, not rich and famous. So.
Yeah, I think that's also a really good option, right? Like if you have a site that's not attached to your personal brand, you can just take a few months off social. You can disappear from that world if you want to, and sometimes that seems really appealing.
Yeah, so I already started getting some traction on my current affiliate sites. I have a friend, and he has a perfume business. He doesn't have a perfume business. He has an amazing nose. So he can identify a good perfume versus not so good perfume. And he's like a perfume fanatic. And I thought about like doubling down, working with him to really get his insights and putting on the website because he's not a marketer at all. And we bought a domain and like, so now I'm thinking in terms of perfume, like which perfume to spend, like, like write about, because there are a lot of like good consumer websites where you can see a lot of reviews in one place. And apparently the average order value is not that high. So now I have to reconsider if I should really invest in it. But it's a good framework to think about it. I think like in general, like if I have to go back to start something affiliate, I would have done something in that niche. But I didn't know about perfume anyway. So okay, I know software, let's do software. Although there'll be competitive market, I still get some chunks out of it. Cool. Yeah. So that's all from my side. Let's hop into the rapid fire. And I know we are a little bit late.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, like, who's your favorite growth marketer right now?
You know what, like I don't really like, I've actually been trying to like follow fewer people. Like actually I do really like Dave Gerhardt, like I'm in his group. He's really weird, but like
he's really weird, you said.
No, good. Sorry, really good.
No, he's weird too, but it's okay.
But yeah, like I don't know, his stuff's all right. But being completely honest, like I've tried to remove myself from that space a little bit, because I don't like opening up social and just being consumed by work, like and kind of always seeing everyone talking about their big numbers. And like I know I share some of that too, but I feel like I probably don't really have a favorite just because I try not to let it.
So who's your favorite marketer? Let's say, who's your favorite marketer? Like somebody you look up to, somebody like, okay, I always like what he's doing at his work.
Yeah, I would probably say like someone like Ryan Holiday, who like isn't necessarily like, he's probably gone beyond being a marketer now, but like that's probably why I like him, because his stuff like just stands up on its own. Like his content's always really good. He's like built his niche in like stoicism and like done a really great job with that. So I also read like his first book. But yeah,
Ryan Holiday was the reason why I went into growth marketing, because he wrote the book about growth hacking, and then I didn't read the actual book on growth hacking by Hiten and Sean Ellis. I read like Ryan Holiday's growth hacking, but it was really small and really to the point.
I think it was like Trust Me, I'm Lying or something like that. Was the one I read.
What's the one bad piece of advice you've ever got?
Oh, that's bad advice. Probably just like, it's really generic, but like follow your passions, or like, I don't know, build a business in an area you're passionate about, right? Because it's just like, that's just, I don't know, like you can be, I think that blurs the lines between like, what are you passionate about? What do you genuinely enjoy? And like, what do you make money from, right? Like I'm passionate about basketball. Like I don't really want that to be a job, because I want to just enjoy it and it not be work. So yeah, I'd say like, build a business, build a business in something you're passionate about. Like there's loads of generic advice about that. Like I think a lot of it's bad.
I would say you can build a business you're interested in. You don't have to be passionate.
Yeah, something you're interested in, enjoy it. But like, I just think, like there's, especially in kind of like startup tech Twitter, like there's this thing about like everything has to be a side hustle. And it's just like, can we not just enjoy stuff like without it becoming work?
Yeah. What have you recently changed your mind about?
I would say link building, probably. I used to hate link building. I used to think it was really spammy. Like it was bad, not bad. Like every site needs it. But I used to think, like link building was just like always kind of dodgy. But yeah, I've really changed my opinion on that the last year or so. Like there's some really smart ways out there to get links. Like I think Help a Reporter Out is great. Being genuinely helpful is a good way to get links. And I've also started working with a digital PR agency and like creating unique assets and studies and resources to generate links. So yeah, I think I've changed my tune on link building a lot in the last year.
Yeah, makes sense. So I personally don't love link building as well, but I've done a lot of link building myself. I kind of promise, I kind of hope that link building is the only last thing that Google actually has to give the credibility to a site. And if it just purely ranks on the content, then all the Substack content will rank, not ours. So like that's something that I always think about it. But yeah, I think it's the hardest thing, and it's the most spammy thing. And the framework I've gotten around is like the way I work is that instead of getting backlink exchange or like Help a Reporter, I just write a really good article for a company like Buffer, Hrefs. And there's one article where I have like 2 links in there, but it's such a unique, insightful content about my topic that actually gets read, gets ranked, and get to the newsletter as well. So I just don't do link building for the sake of it. I do link building for the authority of it, for traffic, for email conversions. And that's how I think about link building in general.
Yeah.
This is Growth Marketing Story with your host, and he goes by Azashad. Come learn from the mindset of growth marketers. This is Growth Marketing Story with your host.